Okay, so now that you've learned these two equations, in the second half of 9.5, we're going to learn about hyperbolas that are not centered at the origin. So now you're going to use this equation and this equation. So you'll notice that the difference is in the numerator there are parentheses, and so the center is h comma k for both, and h always goes with x and k always goes with y. We also learned this formula to figure out a, b, or c, and when you have a horizontal hyperbola, you're going to add c to the h. You're going to add and subtract c to the h. But when it's vertical, you're going to add and subtract c to the k. And same thing with the vertices. You're going to leave the y alone if it's horizontal, and you're going to add a to the x. If it's vertical, you're going to leave the x alone and add a to the y. Alright, and we're not asking you to find asymptotes for tonight's homework. So I think that's all we need from this box. If we need anything else, I'll go back to it. Okay, looking at number 1, this is a review problem. That one's centered at the origin. There are no parentheses. So let's start at the origin, 0, 0. Y is positive, so this is a vertical hyperbola. We're going to go up and down 4. And we're going to go left and right 3. Okay, make your box. Then you make the diagonals of the box. Okay, and it is a vertical, so we do the top of the box and the bottom of the box. For the vertices, this is vertical, so we know it's going to go in the y. The a value, square root of 16, is 4, so plus or minus 4. The foci, again, this is vertical, so we know it's going to go in the y. The c value, so we have to add the denominators together, and that will equal c squared. So c equals 5. So we're going to put plus or minus 5. And if you wanted to graph those, the foci would be right here. Remember, the foci get eaten by the hyperbola. And the asymptotes. So I'll find the asymptotes for this one. But then I'll skip it for the other ones because it's pretty complicated when it's not centered at the origin. So the asymptotes are going to be y equals plus or minus, and we have to find the slope. Slope is rise over run, so we go underneath y and take the square root. Then we go underneath x and take the square root. And then we put an x on the end. Alright, so that was review of the last lesson. Now let's do a graph, vertices, and foci for one not centered at the origin. Alright, so this one, they don't ask for it, but let's write the center. The center is -4, -3, because you do the opposite of what you see in the parentheses. So now if we graph that point, it's around right here. And from there, we want to go left and right 4. The graph counts by 2's, so that would be here and here. Then we want to go up and down 5. Okay, draw the box. Make the diagonals of the box. And we want a horizontal hyperbola. So I'm going to do the right side first. And the left side. Alright, now let's find the vertices and the foci only. Okay, so because this is horizontal, I'm going to leave the y-coordinate alone, but I'm not going to put 0. The y-coordinate was -3 from the center. Alright, so with the -4, we're going to add and subtract the a value. The a value is 4. So what's -4 plus 4? That would be 0. And we have another vertex. What's -4 minus 4? That would be -8. So these are our vertices. And I can't write plus or minus because they're not the same number anymore. One's 0, one's -8. Okay, for the foci, again, we're going to leave the y-coordinate alone. And now we have to take this center number. So I'll write the center again. The center was -4, -3. And now from this number, we want to add and subtract the c value. So what was the c value? The c value, what's 16 plus 25? That's 41. That makes the c value radical 41. So I actually could have used one set of parentheses. So I want to take the -4 that was already there and add and subtract radical 41. And then I'll just get rid of this other one. Okay, for number 2, be careful with the center. The center is 4, 2. Remember to do the x first. So 4, 2, and you also do the opposite for both numbers. 4, 2 is here. Then we want to go up and down 6 because y means up and down. So square root of 36 is 6. And we go up and down because it's with y. Alright, we want to go left and right 4. Then we make the box. And make the diagonals of the box. Okay, this is vertical, so we go up and we go down. Alright, so we're going to have two vertices, and since this is vertical, we're going to leave the x alone and change the y. So this 2, we have to add and subtract the a value. The a value is 6. So 2 plus 6 is 8. 2 minus 6 is -4. Okay, for the foci, again, leave the x alone. You change the y because it's vertical. And I want to take the 2 and add and subtract the c. And the way we find the C value is we add 36 and 16. That makes 52. And then take the square root. So it's this formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 36 plus 16 equals C squared. C squared equals 52. What is the square root of 52? Well, 52 is 4 times 13. So the square root of 52 is 2 radical 13. So there are my vertices and foci, and we already graphed it. And we'll give you guys a break and not make you do the asymptotes like in the homework. Okay, first thing we have to do for number 4 is put that equation in standard form. So we've done something like this before. We're going to put the x's together, and we're going to put the y's together. And there's a reason I'm leaving that gap. And that 4, I'm going to move to the other side. So that 4 is going to become a negative 4. Alright, so parentheses with the x's, parentheses with the y's. You're not supposed to have a number in front of x squared. So what I want to do next is take out the 4 from the x terms. So that'll leave x squared minus 2x. Then leave the gap. Right, for the y's, we want to take out the negative 1 or the negative sign. So I'm going to take out a negative 1, but I'm not going to write the 1. So negative. And then if I take 8y and divide by negative 1, that becomes negative 8y. So now we're going to complete the square. Alright, so take the negative 2, divide that by 2, that's negative 1. Negative 1 squared is plus 1. And do the same thing here. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Square that and you get plus 16. Then we have to balance the equation. Now, looking at this carefully, the 1 we added is not really a 1 because it's going to get multiplied by 4. So that was plus 4, and this was a minus 16. So I have to do that to the other side. Plus 4 and minus 16. So this was a plus 4, this was a minus 16, and we do that to the right side so it remains balanced. Okay, now we factor. So we have 4 parentheses x minus 1 squared minus y minus 4 squared. This equals, right, so those numbers make negative 16. The 4's cancel out. And we know that on the right side, we're supposed to have a 1. So we need to divide this by negative 16. And if we do that, that means we have to divide everything by negative 16. So this is going to become 1. And then what I notice is this is going to be the positive term because it's negative divided by negative. The other one's going to be negative because it's positive divided by negative. So now I'm going to switch the order because the positives should go first. So this becomes y minus 4 squared over 16 because again these negatives cancel out. And now the x is the one that's negative. This is going to be x minus 1 squared over, and I'm going to reduce these. 4 over 16 is the same as 1 over 4. So here's the equation, and now we can graph that. So the center center of this hyperbola, start with the x and do the opposite, is 1, comma 4. So 1, comma 4 is over here. We want to go up and down 4. And we want to go left and right 2. Then you make the box and the diagonals of the box. And this is a vertical hyperbola. So we go up here and down here. Next we need the foci and the vertices. Vertices first, actually. Okay, so this was vertical because the y is positive. So that means we're going to change the y coordinate. So what's the a value? The a value is 4. So from this 4, we're going to add 4 and subtract 4. So 4 plus 4 is 8. And the other one, 4 minus 4 is 0. So again, we just take the center and we change the y. Alright, for the foci, again, we take the center. We're going to change the y only because it's vertical. And I'm going to only make one set of parentheses because I know it's a radical. Alright, so what's the c value? To get the c value, remember you add the denominators together and take the square root. So 16 plus 4 is 20. What's the square root of 20? The square root of 20 is 2 radical 5. So with the rest of the notes, we have a preview of the next lesson. So how do you tell the difference between a hyperbola and an ellipse? Well, you could tell by looking at the equation, and the equation doesn't even need to be in standard form. So all you do is find the x squared and the y squared. So I found the x squared and the y squared. Notice that one is positive and one is negative. Because one's positive and one's negative, that makes this a hyperbola. So find the x squared and the y squared. If one is positive and one is negative, it's a hyperbola. If they're both positive or if they're both negative, it's an ellipse. And this technique only works if they are on the same side of the equation. So make sure they're on the same side. And if one's positive and one's negative, then it's a hyperbola. So we have a negative 9x squared and a positive y squared. So number 6 is also a hyperbola. Alright, so for number 7, they are not on the same side. So if I move this to the other side, then I have 8x squared plus 3y squared. And I don't even care about the other stuff. We only care about the x squared and the y squared. So now that they're on the same side and they are both positive, this is an ellipse. Okay, again, number 8, they are not on the same side. So let's move this to the right side. If you move a negative 3y squared to the other side, it becomes positive. So now that they're on the same side, and they are both positive, this is also an ellipse. So again, find x squared and y squared, put them on the same side. If one is positive and one is negative, it's a hyperbola. If they're both positive or both negative, it's an ellipse. And that is all for 9.5.